me there, so I'll eat the meat. Gotta get ripped to impress my buddy Tom. I'm a Jones and Paul, born in sin and complete ruin. Nonetheless, I think I know what to do. You need a aptitude with a gay attitude, or prescription medicine every day. Read words or throw out a television. That's on you if you shun inspiration. Run with fear, run her up to a case of beer. Sleep dreams near. Whoa. My hands are shaky and my head hurts bad. Escape is just a fad. Woke up late in an intensified state, and I ain't got a clue what to do. Get it aptitude with the gay attitude, or prescription medicine every day. Read words or throw out a television. That's on you if you shun inspiration. Yeah. Whoa, 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 whoa. Da, 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 da. You need aptitude with a gay attitude, or prescription medicine every day. Read words or throw out a television. That's on you if you shun inspiration. Don't be an idiot with inspiration. It's Tuesday night at Sharky's Hotel Bar. Only talk to this dude off to my right so far. He runs a swindler mechanic shop. He likes booze and dames. He asked, you got any dreams or a legacy? Love at home, some kids or family? Then I said no. I downed my whiskey, left a $5 tip, went out the back door and stuffed some dip in my lip. Cruising down the back road, singing in a world of regret. I thought about her smiling, the baby. Thought to myself they might miss me. Then I said no. I know I'm just a fallen man who failed his wife. I played the highest stakes in pain, death and life. I'm just a tired, repeated story who moved out west and lost the name. Truck in my trailer, it feels the same. It might be all that I've got and I'll ever get. Is my past something that I can't forget? I say no. I said no. I've got some news. I've got news. an annual streak out of nowhere. I've hardly been ornery or short, unbeaten in real life Monopoly, and I still thought I'd be a good sport. So this morning it came in the mail. It's kinda unexpected, but I think it's well deserved. I'm up for Man of the Year. Man of the Year. Let's just face a little state and people that can hear. I'm up for Man of the Year. I'll start with my nice enough church friends. Even though they can't match my virtuous drive, we'll keep this between you and I. But they don't deserve to be alive. Misguided, fat, piggy liberals. What was that too critical? In any case, it doesn't matter. I'm up for Man of the Year. Man of the Year. Let's touch fate till the head of state and people that can hear. I'm up for Man of the Year. Man of the Year. Man of the Year. Let's raise my hand, come join the banding abundantly clear. I'm up for Man of the Year. It's been 6 months and the results are in. I lost. Man of the Year. Man of the Year. No acceptance speech, 30 prize or consolation prize. I lost Man of the Year.
Test, test. Testing, testing. Okay. Sorry about that. Little technical difficulties to start off immediately. So You just have to roll with the punches sometimes, right? And that's a core principle that I think that even, as a leader of this company and of all you professionals that are here tonight, really something that I try to embrace. And, I really want to thank you one and all for being here. Long week, right? But nonetheless, what a better way to cap things off than with another touch point, right? So it's really been a long week. Quite productive, I must say, from my end. And I'm looking forward to collaborating a little bit more with all of you, understand a little bit more about what you've been doing. And hopefully this is less of a one-way conversation, because that's pretty much what these touch points have been. As I've been reviewing my materials, the amount of collaboration it's been tough, right? It's been tough, but we're in this together, right? So just something to keep in mind, and let's dive into it here. So thank you again. See some people continuing to trickle in here, getting some great feedback. Now hold on, now I'm getting some feedback that my audio is not quite there. How's this? My producer's telling me. And when I say my producer, I mean I'm getting a text message. Well, hopefully that is a little bit better. But again, welcome more feedback if there is some difficulties with the audio. So let's see here. So going into the touch point, again, just love this team, and just love the unified value that's been happening across the entire organization. And so I think that that's very evident, and it's a great testimony to the leadership that I'm able to provide. And I thank you that you've trusted me as your leader. That said, though, it was a bit of a tough quarter. I'm not going to lie. Hopefully the audio is working squared away here. Trying to get word from my producer here on that. But so all that to say, let's dive into the metrics a little bit on this last quarter, into quarter three. And, traditionally what a leader would do, what they might do is they might just go ahead and hop into the metrics, right, and start showing charts and feedback and things like that. But I'm not going to do that. I think I like to use every moment as a learning opportunity. And so with that said, just wanted to pose a question for the group and for everybody throughout the organization. This is going from top to bottom. How do we make decisions? Anyone know? How do we make decisions? Anyone? Well, I'm educated. I have my MBA. I've actually been through a lot of tough decision making as the part of a team, and usually as the leader of a team. And I'll be the first to tell you it doesn't always go this way, but the right way to do it, we're talking about an ideal state, is with data, right? We talk about data all the time here at the public company. And what does that really mean? What is data? Is that just numbers? Yeah, pretty much. And so let's start talking about data. And, let's use this as I'm really focusing in on the KPIs for what's made us successful and maybe what are some pain points. It's something called root cause analysis. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of that, but it's basically it's a way to solve problems. It's a way to make decisions, and you start with the data. So first of all, wanted to show you some exciting, let's start with the good news, right? Volume's up. I mean, we have a lot of consumers. We have a lot of market share. The potential is there. Look at the number of views. This is only over the last 28 days. We're averaging well over several views per day. And almost 24 hours of watch time here at the public company, which is just amazing, right? And I don't think anybody would have thought we'd be here at this point. I know I wouldn't have thought that I'd get here at this point. Let's see here. Getting a few comments here before I keep moving on. Reboot the system, reboot our lives. Man, wouldn't that be something? I don't even know what that means, really, but that would be, I could use a reboot in a lot of different ways. I do think that that might be a good starting point sometimes when you get in a rut. And part of the decision making, I do think that is, if you do get caught in a rut, sometimes it's best to start from square one, reboot, clean slate, just start over. So back to the metrics for quarter three. Viewership is up. Consumerism is up. Getting lots of good data share. Thank you, Miss Tammy, for clarifying that you are hearing things. It's really all I've been able to think about since I started talking, so huge. So that said, consumers are enjoying the product. We're creating value. It's being used by others. But revenue is zero. There's no cash flow. Zero. High volume, low revenue. And when I say low, that's being generous. We're not making any money. There's no revenue whatsoever, and that's obviously a bad thing. And I shouldn't say obviously. I mean, that's me making some assumptions maybe for some of us on the team. But please do keep in mind that revenue, and I'll slow down a little bit, maybe not so much revenue, but margin, right? Large margins is truly what we're after. And when you have no revenue, you have no margin at all. So we'll look to increase the trend. As you can see from the plot that I put together using technology on my computer, we're still running just at zero, just constant, no revenue, nothing. We've not made any money. Not really spent any money either, except on the camera. And so that's disheartening, That's tough. That is tough. So how do we increase revenue, right? That's what the next question is. And again, I want you to kind of follow along with me. I know last week, week before, we talked about Rube Goldberg, and don't be mistaken, that will be coming back, the Rube Goldberg analysis and using that methodology. So how are we going to increase revenue? Do we have any ideas? Anybody here at the TOUCHPOINT? Anything? As far as how do we make more revenue? How do we get more cash flow? How do we get more of the green, right? That's really, I know we talk a lot about value and camaraderie and teamwork and things like that, but I will say I'm under a lot of pressure right now to actually start making some money with the company, and I've actually not really gotten any good ideas from anybody or feedback, and that's okay, but at some point, I scratch your back, you scratch mine, right? So I really value all my professional associates here. They're here tonight for the TOUCHPOINT. And again, revenue is just another word for cash flow. So I'll be looking here in the chat for, my phone, contact me anyway. My email, how to get hold of me. If you have any suggestions on how to increase cash flow, I'd really appreciate it. So let me walk you through a little bit with my background. Like I mentioned, I do have an MBA. I know a lot about business and a lot of the principles behind it and a lot of the theory behind things like economics, quality, consumer satisfaction, processes. So one way to increase revenue, if your volume is up, is to bring up what? The price. You want to bring up the price so that as the product moves, the revenue comes up with the price, right? So if you don't understand that, let me know. It took me a long time to figure that out. But that's it. So that's one way to do it. And again, there's so many different ways to skin a cat. in here. So I need to get back to looking at the chat here and see if anybody's been chiming in with any ideas. Tammy Barleycamp with a great suggestion. Sell shirts with your face in your hand doing the Rube Goldberg face wipe maneuver. That was pretty good. I didn't even think about that, but merchandise. So we have an entire department for merchandising, and maybe we may have our first candidate for filling the vacancy. So that's really great. Great input. It looks like Alexander seconds that. And so I'm going to go ahead and log that in the parking lot of ideas. So I keep a local file here on the computer that I mentioned earlier. And I'll go ahead and actually put that down there. So T-shirt, Rube Goldberg, and great, thank you. Okay. So I feel like this has already been a really productive touch point, getting some good collaboration here. But I will walk through some additional options just to kind of keep things going. You know, I want to pick your guys' brains a little bit. Let's keep the creative juices going. And again, I welcome devil's advocate. If you disagree, you might even disagree with what Tammy said. If you did, then, you know, you can say that. This is an open, collaborative environment. It's a psychologically safe environment. Fundraising is another option. So what does fundraising look like? That's basically just asking people for money. So that's if somebody has a lot of cash on hand and they might be interested in making an investment in the public company. This is something that I've been trying to do. And full transparency, it's been a tough road. And be sharing some of the results from that as we continue to have some of these sessions with potential investors. And again, there is sometimes where you have this thing called shareholders, where people can put money into a company and buy shares of it. So that's an option. And that's also open to you. If you want to invest in the company, feel free to do that. Just let me know. And, you know, we're all in this together, right? And then also, you know, the last option, and this is kind of probably the hardest one to wrap your head around, but especially if you've not had the type of education that I have, loans. So this is just getting money from the bank or somebody that has a lot of capital, but what they expect in return is repayment eventually. And so what they do is they put something called interest on it. And the longer that you have the money, then you owe more money is basically how it works. And I want to talk a lot about this particular option because I do think that, you know, with my experience and from what I've read and just doing like different research and everything, this is probably the best option. So, and yeah, it is kind of funny, Alex, the fundraising. It's not, it sounds like that, and it's not like fun, like a good time, but fund with a D for cash flow. So it's like investing. It's trying to get investors to give you their money. Great question on the mission statement. So, and it's a great call out because it's something that we need to keep at the forefront at all times, right? I'm just realizing that we're not quite squared away here. Okay. Value creation through inspired transformation, unification, amplification, and fair business. That's the mission statement. And, you know, I do think that when it comes to fundraising, consequently enough, that's pretty much the gist of what I said the whole time, trying to get investors, and mixed bag of results, but we're getting there, right? One of the main entrepreneurship principles is something called hustle. So that's just hitting the pavement, getting out there, you know, sweating it out, going above and beyond. And that's pretty much what I've been doing. And if you've not been hustling, then something to consider maybe. And so let's see here. What does revenue mean when it comes to something like a loan? And you may also know that as a note, right? That's something that they say in the business world. At a high level, you know, no revenue means no margin, which means mission failure. Not an option. Not in this economy. So debt is good because it means leverage. When you want to take on risk, you want to use somebody else's money to do it. And that's called leverage. And that's when you mitigate risk. So, debt means leverage, which means low risk, which means analytical solutions plus savvy, kind of goes without saying, and early adopters. That's ultimately what we're after. Hopefully. Yeah, I'm hearing the crying baby too. Or there's something going on just over my left shoulder here, so I wouldn't worry about it. Not my problem right now. So, as Tammy had mentioned earlier with the Rube Goldberg machine, so this is something that, I want to keep that at the forefront as we're working together on delivering value at the public company. If you remember right, there's the chain of events and there's an intentional design behind it. And this was first coined by, the phrase comes from the guy who started doing this all the time, which is Rube Goldberg. And if you remember, he was born in California, has Jewish lineage, and very successful. But ultimately, we may be doing all these different things that seem like they are not related to one another, but they are. So ultimately, we need to get to the place where we're doing the automatic wipe after you eat the soup. And I just wanted to talk about that again. So just again to reiterate, we want to inspire, unify, amplify, and create. And so, we will get there together. So inspiration. Okay. What does inspiration mean for you guys? Because I know last time we had the touch point, we had some really creative answers. I think somebody started talking about food. Another person said something about family. Really cool stuff. But it's something we should continue to ponder as a team. I've been thinking about it a lot lately, and I just wanted to share a couple of anecdotes and a few examples from the last week. So we've been through a few collaborations that one's already been shared. And when I talk about a collaboration, I'm collaborating with, visionary, thinker, creator, innovator, people that are looking out forward and not right in front of them, really like Rube Goldberg types. And had the privilege of talking with Alex Barleycamp, who has the Fractured Hearts Club venture, Fractured Hearts Boards venture, which is about it's a one-wheel rental business, and he's been working really hard on propagating out the brand. And the story behind it is just incredible. I would really encourage you, if you've not been able to take a look at that video, take in that content, do it right now, and get caught up on this later, because I will tell you that it's transformative. I've had a lot of people come up to me and just say that they really spoke to them and met them where they are. And truthfully, Mr. Barleycamp, Dr. Barleycamp, a very respectable individual. And also just really a pleasure to have him as a part of the public company at the professional associate level. So a big shout out to him. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. Really cool stuff. And then also we had another collaboration that I've been kind of keeping under wraps a little bit. And that happened today, and we will be sharing that out for you all to continue to get inspired. Had actually another MBA on for an interview session, and I am just on fire after this discussion with this guy. He has his own consulting firm. It's called Wolf Consulting, LLC, and just a pleasure to talk to him. Really engaging conversation. Great guy. Only one kid, so really like that. And really, again, he thinks about things at a higher level that I really aspire to, and I think that we can all kind of learn from. But that's not all. That is not all. So, let me get the little... Is everything going on okay? here from the audio standpoint. Okay, so Alex Camp is telling me that I mispronounced the name of the venture, and I am very sorry about that. And we will get that fixed in editing and post. And let's see what else here. So a lot of good collaboration in the chat. Really appreciate the engagement and the brainstorming that's been going on. So as I get into kind of for me personally at a personal level, what's been inspirational for me? This is a champion athlete that that has always inspired me for the longest time. And just look at the credentials, right? We're talking about on top of the world when it comes to running, and running at a very fast pace. If you just take a look at his results from South Africa, just a decorated athlete that's world renowned, and somebody that I've really looked up to. And so just beyond reproach in his commitment and the way that he's been able to inspire others. I'm not much of a runner myself, but I think that might be part of the reason why I find him so attractive and I'm so inspired all the time. It's just because I just can't wrap my head around it. And so, yeah, his name is Oscar Pistorius, and this is what he looks like. And if you look at the picture that I just brought up, he doesn't have, his legs have been cut clean off because of a birth defect when he was born. And that didn't keep him from running the race. And that is ultimately what's very inspirational to me about Oscar Pistorius and his story. And just, if you've not heard of him before, if this is the first time you've heard about Oscar from South Africa, the legless runner, and there's a lot of really inspirational things about him that if you've not been exposed to it yet, go check it out. I guess the things on his legs, or where they cut the leg off, he propels forward with them. They're called blades, and that's what they look like. So anyhow, I'll have to say my main point here is that it's easy to be prejudiced in this world, and I'm just going to ask you, as we progress into the reaction workshop together, let's leave those prejudices at the door, okay? There's no room for it here at the Public Company. We are a psychologically safe, diverse, welcoming environment, and without that type of environment, we're just never going to have good ideas. We're never going to make good decisions. And otherwise, you might be in a spot where you look at someone like Oscar Pistorius and you'll say, hey, I don't even think he can walk. But you would be so mistaken if you were to say that, because of, like I said, just a world-class runner. So, and he's from South Africa. Really cool stuff. So again, if you've not heard of it, it's Oscar Pistorius is his name, and his history is it's well documented, both on and off the field. Just a great guy. And look at that smile, right? That pretty much says it all. That's really what struck me as I was going through and doing my research and really pondering, okay, who do I want to show the professional associates, as my inspirational leader? And this, Oscar came to mind right away because I think about him all the time. And just look at the photo. Like, if you can see the photograph down there to the left, look at the smile. And you see that and you think, well, he must have all of his legs and everything because he's really happy. But that's not the case. I mean, look over to the right. He has these blades that are kind of like I said, I think they're called blades, and they're used to, it's kind of like propels him forward as he runs. It's really wild. I've watched a lot of footage, and it's true. That's an actual person. So, again, let's all be Oscar Pistorius together, and we can continue to overcome these challenges together. And so now what I'd like to do is progress into the workshop that I have put together for you guys. And so, any questions on that, by the way? Is the audio okay? Einstein's E equals MC squared. Einstein, you want to talk about somebody that liked data? He's Jewish. And again, thank you, Alex, for being understanding with the mispronunciation of the venture and your one-wheel business. Just fascinating stuff. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. Isn't Oscar a convicted murderer? I don't think so. No, he's a double amputee. He has his legs cut off. So, but maybe, I don't know. I guess I'll look into that. I'll follow up on that. I'll circle around on that one. Because I don't know. And I can reach out to our research group on that one and get back to you on that. Are we talking about the same Oscar? Maybe I'll look into that. But again, good question. I'll follow up on that. And I'm like, that's just sort of how I am too. That's how I approach leadership. If I don't have the answer, I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise. I'll just be honest about it. So, I will get the answer. I'm going to figure it out. Okay. But anyhow, Alex, a lot of good questions tonight, a lot of good comments. He is who I had interviewed earlier this week, week before actually. So part of the inspiration series. And, he showed me a one wheel. I'd never seen one of these before. And it's a really amazing piece of technology. Again, if you've not seen it yet, go check it out. You have to go watch my interview with Dr. Alex Barley-Camp. Okay, so let's move into some of the reaction workshop. And as I do that, let me check and see which videos I wanted to talk through. So, believe during the last live touch point, we did some discussion around Martha Stewart, and I do think that she might be a good figure for us to pursue as we continue to try to get that initial catalyst spark that gets our name out there and really gets the brand going, and so I would like to show you a clip that has always stood out to me. This is a video during an interview that she had with Yahoo, and just talking about a few different well-known females in the industry, and I guess you could say they're kind of like her cohorts, and getting her take on them. And so Martha's answer always just stood out to me, and it's very thought-provoking. So let's take a look.
You have been coined the influencer's influencer.
Right.
You sort of created
That's Martha.
this whole industry that is a huge part of culture now, right? What is it like to watch other celebrities, Gwyneth Paltrow, Meghan Markle, going in your footsteps and following something that you really started?
I'm Australian, mate. Hello, governor. It's Australia.
I don't mind. Good luck. And Gwyneth's been very successful, by the way. I think she's created quite an interesting body of businesses. She's admired. She's a fantastic. She won an Oscar, for heaven's sake, as an actress. She's pretty powerful. Megan, I don't really know very well, and I hope she knows what she's talking about. Authenticity to me is everything, and to be authentic and knowledgeable about your subject matter is extremely important.
So that's something that I really do admire about Martha. I do think that she is a very authentic individual, and so as we continue to wrestle through a lot of the thoughts behind the public company and even just doing your own ventures, I do think that there is a lot of value in focusing on the subject matter itself. And I really do like the juxtaposition between somebody like Martha Stewart and someone like Meghan Markle. And it's something that I find fascinating that, across industries you have people that do ultimately make it to the same destination. Meghan Markle is amazingly successful, very talented. I've watched all the she has a documentary on Netflix, or it's like it's a show that's very much like what Martha Stewart did and what she offered for hostesses and caretakers, and there's no arguing that what she's delivering is a high quality and it's beyond reproach, but you can get the sense that Meghan's motivations are a little bit different than what I see as Martha Stewart's ultimate motivations. And so I always find that fascinating. And the conversation about authenticity, I do think that there is a lot to admire there, because academically, a lot of research shows that authenticity is overrated, and I don't think I agree with that, especially when you consider, if everyone was authentic and truly did lean into our natural emotions and who we are and our opinions, I think that we'd be better off for it. And so I really want to continue to ruminate on that, but I thought her answer there was interesting. It seems like Martha Stewart had a lot of respect for Gwyneth Paltrow, but not so. I shouldn't say not so much Meghan Markle, but it seemed like there's a lot of depth to that answer, and you can tell that authenticity and being genuine is something that she holds near and dear to her heart, and I do think that as a leader, that's very important. And so we'll continue to digest more content from Martha. And this next clip is this is from the show Shark Tank. Has anyone heard of Shark Tank before? Got any Shark Tank heads in the house tonight? So anyhow, Shark Tank is it's a show for entrepreneurs, and they basically go in, and we talked about fundraising earlier, right? They're basically trying to fundraise. So they go in the Shark Tank and they try to pitch their idea, and they do their best at it for the business that they're trying to do. And so basically what that ends up turning into is a conversation between whoever is pitching the idea and the sharks, and trying to get the fundraising so that they can get some good tailwinds for their venture. And so this is a clip that I watched earlier today, and I just thought this is very pertinent for what we're trying to do. And, try to think about our mission statement and how it aligns to this specific entrepreneur and this leader and what she's talking about with the sharks. This is that she has a presence about her, and she walks into the room very confident. She gives off this very positive energy. She gives off these vibes that are very much like, ooh, I like that. And so kind of keep that in mind as you're walking into rooms and stuff, and as people look at you. Do you project yourself in a certain way? Are you intentional about it? Do you look like her, right? And I came away super impressed right away just by watching. So what does that mean? $250,000 for 10% of the company. So basically what she's asking for is an upfront investment of $250,000. That's also $250,000. And in exchange, she will give 10% of the value of her company. We talk about value till we're blue in the face, but what does it actually mean? Well, she's actually selling some value here. She's looking to sell 10% of her company off, and she'll take that money, she'll take the funds, and when that happens, there's a transaction of money. That's called cash flow. And so what's really special about that then is she can take that money and she can invest it back into the company, and then the company gets bigger, it gets more successful, more people get to enjoy the product, and it really helps provide a lot of momentum for what she's trying to do. So I just wanted to break that down for you because I know it's a little bit confusing. This is one of the sharks. Her name escapes me, but she's on the show all the time. That he's just like, he's impressed. She's blowing him away right now. There's absolutely no way that she's going to walk out of this room without getting an offer from this guy. And you can just tell by looking at his face. I mean, look at it. He's blown away, and rightfully so, right? She brought in a tub of the stuff, so let's keep watching together.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it.
So I'll just work through a commercial a little bit. Yeah, she's pitching the product. As you can tell, the sharks are pretty well engaged with everything, and especially this guy. And so this is kind of what I'm using these videos and watching this stuff and trying to use it to develop myself. And I'd like if you use the same approach as we walk through some of this content. It's very educational and inspirational. So let's see what happens here, because it's kind of an interesting product. I don't really know what it is. I don't know if anybody here in the call understands what she's talking about, but I do think that she's doing a great job selling it, and it seems like it's like a skincare product. And, you know, this is another point I want to make is, you know, this guy here doesn't even probably use skincare probably. But that's not keeping him from engaging with the product, because he's not engaging with the product itself. He's engaging with what the product can do. In his mind right now, there's all these wheels going crazy and all this stuff. He's like thinking of all these ideas and like thinking of the potential. Because again, he's a visionary, right? He's like Dr. Alex Barley Camp. He's like the entrepreneur I interviewed today. He's like me, right? He's looking out toward the future. He's looking out beyond where most people are looking. Automatically top of my list, right? I mean, the accolades: 2 masters, an MBA, and she's from Nigeria, or she likes Nigeria, or her dad's from Nigeria, which is in Africa. That's a very unique combination. You don't get that very often. And so even Mark is a little bit, because before, remember, he was a little bit like standoffish, like, I don't know about this so much, but now he's like leaning forward in his chair. He's like, she's got his ear a little bit here now. I can't wait to show you guys the rest of this video. $1 million, we talked about revenue earlier. That's what this, so she's saying, you know, we're doing 0 right now. She's doing 500,000 more than that over like a longer period of time, granted, but you know, that's kind of where we need to be thinking, is going from 0 to $500,000 in cash flow. That's the cost. So that's the money going out and then coming back, generating the cash flow of $500,000. So a word's going to come up here soon that I think is going to resonate with you and start ringing some alarm bells, because we talked about it earlier. While it comes up, does anybody know what that is? It's the difference between the amount of money you spend offering the service and the amount of money that you generate. What's that gap? Does anyone know? Something to think about. You hear that? That's what I was talking about earlier. Margin. That's the key. That's the goal. A big margin. That's what you want. And she's got it, man. Well, it costs $12, and then you get $80 a pop in return. Just crazy stuff.
You know, I cannot fault.
These sharks are just salivating at this point. They're eating out of the palm of her hand. It's crazy to watch. Excuse me. I've watched a lot of this, and sometimes these pitches don't go so well. This is like a masterclass, and you know, like I said, as soon as I saw her walk through the door, I was like, yep, this is going to be a good pitch. She's got it, right? A great response. You know, she deflects. She says, sure, I mean, Mr. Wonderful's got a point, right? He doesn't really care too much about this. But that said, it's like, sorry, I'm having a few technical difficulties here, I think, maybe. No, we're good. But Mr. Wonderful, because he's a little bit like, I'm not so sure about this product. I don't know if it's a good fit for me. And she has the perfect response and basically saying, like, you don't need to worry about that. I'll take the lead on that. And that initiative's great to see from her. So this is kind of like the break in it. And I don't know if we're still currently streaming or not. I'm getting some notifications. Okay, I believe we're back. And so, again, she's walking through this presentation, this pitch, and it's kind of a make or break kind of thing. And the thing that I really want you to take notice of is that she really is going above and beyond. She's redirecting the conversation whenever it comes through. She's using something called negotiation. And, our professional associates, I think that, you're at a lower level of the company right now, but I would recommend that you continue to stay engaged, stay focused on the mission, because ultimately, we may not have our butter right now. We may not have our Rube Goldberg machine. We may not have anything like that. But we do have each other, and we do have the know-how and the drive. And, that's really all that I really care about. So continue to try to figure out. I don't know if anybody is getting, if the stream is coming through. I don't know if the stream is coming through. And I think we're back now. Potentially. Buddy. Let's see here. Maybe I'm back now. I upset somebody at YouTube. They didn't like it. But that's what you get for not having your own platform. Maybe that's what we should do with the public company, just start our own streaming device. I think we're back now. So anyhow, what I would like to do, though, is, we're going through the reaction workshop and continuing to kind of work through some of the technical difficulties here. So I appreciate you guys being patient. And as I'm looking here, I think that can I get a thumbs up in the chat from somebody that's here still with during this touch point here together, just to confirm that it is coming through by chance. I'll just sit here all night. I really don't care. Because I don't see anything. Seems serious. So I'm going to continue to talk through the initial talking point, because I think I failed to mention a few different things here. So Oscar Pistorius, again, he was one of he's a huge inspiration. I think Alex was asking if he's a convicted murderer. And I'm going to take a look into that. First, I'm going to confirm that the streams are working. Okay, so we are back. Okay. Didn't get any confirmation. I don't even think. So yes, I got the copyright strike. That's what took the stream down, and so I do apologize about that. Feeling a little bit underprepared for tonight, but that's okay, right? I mean, we all we're all adults here. So, let's see. I was thinking what we might do is actually do just a little bit of our own intensive research about Oscar Pistorius and learn more about him and what he's all about, because if it is true that he is a criminal, then I'll probably stop saying that he's like my hero and everything, just because it doesn't seem right. But he is missing his legs. See, double amputee. He was first convicted of culpable homicide of his then girlfriend, which that's weird. If it's your girlfriend, why would you do that? Riva Steenkamp, which was subsequently upgraded to murder upon appeal. So yeah, I guess. Ugh. Good runner though. So I do apologize for that. I did not realize that he is such a terrible guy. I mean, that's pretty crazy stuff. Yeah, so he was born in Johannesburg, South Africa, in a Christian home. And he lost his legs when he was not even a year old, because of some deformity that was going on there in his legs. And that didn't keep him from, competing at the highest level when it came to running and being an athlete. But now I'm going to try to do a little bit more research here on this whole unpleasantness about murder and everything. Still right about the personal life. Has 3 visible tattoos. He got in a boat accident at one point, and then murder. He shot and killed Riva. He shot her 4 times with a gun, and he said he claimed he mistook her for a possible intruder. So that's pretty serious. Pretty serious stuff. And again, I think that this is how we grow. We continue to learn together, and grow together. As we revisit this slide, I do think that it's important to note that when it comes to getting a loan, it's good to come with your papers. It's good to come and make sure that you are well informed about what the loan is and what the interest rate is. And so if anybody has any connections with the banking industry, or this is where networking really comes into play. If we can get like a really good interest rate on some capital and get that pumped back into the company, that would be huge. It'd be a big win for us. And if not, that's okay too. But I do think that moving forward, that this is what we're going to have to do. I think that taking out a loan and being creative in that way, it comes with a little bit of risk, but not as much as if we were to put our own money into it. Because, think about it this way. If you're going to, say you're going to go to Las Vegas, and not saying I would suggest, maybe going to Las Vegas, but just a hypothetical. You would potentially go, and you go up to the blackjack table, you sit down, and you know that whatever you win that night, you're going to be able to recoup and take. Would you rather at that point gamble with money that's not yours, or with your own money? And if you talk about it that way and kind of do that little switch with your perspective, it's pretty clear then at that point that what we should do is go further into debt and start using capital that's been borrowed against a low interest rate to reinvest into the company. Because much like that investor from the Shark Tank from Nigeria, I'm kind of in the same boat in that quit my job, pretty much have done everything I can to pursue this venture. And, it's tough. It's spending a lot of time hustling and trying to get some things put together. I do love the number of subscribers. I think it's pretty special what we've been able to do. But that said, I do think that the revenue is a problem. And if I had any recommendations, I will look into things like stickers. I'm seeing now as I'm going through the chat again, there's some additional notes here about some different value propositions, which I think is really special. Stickers is a great idea. I think also there was a comment about T-shirts with the Rube Goldberg thing, and maybe that's a good way to start branding. I don't know. See, the connection's excellent now. Things are looking great. Offer consultation services for a fee. Now that's interesting. I think Tammy is the only one that gave any ideas tonight. Alex kind of did. Seems like the music was a huge hit at the beginning. Sweet jams, love music. We want to hear the value. It's great reading through some of this stuff. But so consultation services for a fee, I do think that there is some potential value there. And like I said, who I'd interviewed today is actually a consultant who has started to do that on his own. And I thought one thing that would be pretty special and might be pretty revealing is if he actually came on to consult for us and did gave us some pointers about how to get the revenue up and increase our margins. And two, to kind of dive further into what the value proposition is, because ultimately the value proposition is going to be the difference between what we can sell and at a certain cost, and if that thing is worth more than that cost to a potential consumer. And so at the fundamentals of business, that's really what's happening. And so when you break it down that way, it doesn't seem like it's that hard. I think we can do it. And maybe it is stickers. Maybe it is a hard service or some product that we make with manufacturing. That's just kind of tough. But yeah, I think we'll continue to kind of forge forward and work through some of these issues together. I mentioned earlier talking about Martha Stewart and her comments on Gwyneth Paltrow and Meghan Markle. And I do apologize for the copyright strike, and I feel like it kind of killed the momentum of the touch point tonight. But as we're working through some of these things together, I did want to go out. I'm going to go fish up the Martha Stewart slide, because I do think that when it comes to creating value in a big way, a lot of it just comes down to if the person is truly engaged with the product and the subject matter itself. Like I said, I do think that there's I think some people achieve success through shooting for success, and they make it happen. They might be more motivated by the ends than the actual means. And I'm pretty keen on that comparison. I think that there's a lot that we can learn together by juxtaposing juxtapositioning those two things. Ugh, need a little bean juice. But just to continue to talk a little bit more about our potential catalyst here. Got the wrong thing. Can't go like this. So, yeah. So Martha, I do think I think she is a good catalyst for what we're trying to do. And back to the comparison I was making a little bit earlier before I got sidetracked, I do think that there's something to be said for someone who is truly obsessive about their craft and their work. You learn more about Martha Stewart. She was able to create her empire and have her success because she really was looking to master being a good hostess for people and creating a welcoming home and environment and offering things that are beyond reproach when it comes to things like food and a welcoming environment and hosting good get-togethers for people. And I don't think for her so much it was the success that drove her. I think that it is innately within her to really master that craft. And so I do think that there's something there that we can lock in on that I do think we can create more of a competitive advantage against our competitors. It's just going to take time, you know. So I do think, tonight I appreciate you working together with me on the technical difficulties. I know it was kind of tough. A little bit disappointed in how that went, but you know what? We'll continue to forge forward. You know, I do think that, I have a lot of support from those around me. I appreciate each and every one of you. We will continue to propagate out this venture and really have each other's back. If you have any questions, give me a call. Send me a note, send me an email, send me a buzz. Do whatever works best for you because I do think that we are at a crossroads here a little bit with not making any money and, just surviving, I think right now is like the main thing for me because like I was really gung-ho when we started this venture to try to preserve the environment and to also be diverse. I think diversity is huge. And there have been huge obstacles. I mean, I think that in a lot of ways, maybe revenue is more important than diversity. But then when I really think about it and I say it out loud, it's kind of like, that's ridiculous, right? I think diversity is key to everything that we do. Without diversity, what do we have? Much like the planet, much like our globe that is continuing to warm up to the point where it's almost inhabitable to live here, right? So I think this is key. I think really understanding what we're passionate about is going to inform our decisions quite well as we move along here. But I do think that, again, so again, I'd mentioned personnel earlier and how important that is. That kind of ties directly into the diversity piece. Merchandising, we got some good suggestions tonight from Tammy. I might just go ahead and make her head of merchandising. I don't think she's still here as part of the call. I think she had to drop, but if she wants it, it's hers. And as far as capital goes, this is where we're really, really lacking because capital is just a fancy word for money. It's just cash flow. When I talked about using loans for leverage earlier, that's just getting capital in a way. And so there's needs all across like the middle parts of the organization. You look here, there's like the C-suite, which is me, and then at the bottom is you guys, and then right in between, I think, is like these three main categories. And right now, I want to focus on personnel moving forward. So hopefully, when we come back next week, we'll have the personnel department filled out a little bit more. And again, this is a flat organization. Look at this photo, though. Just so inspirational. It's like the only diversity we have. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so this was the research that I found on, I guess, my previous inspiration. Not so much anymore, I guess, but I had no idea. Well, maybe this is a good time to talk about Steve Jobs a little bit. Because, Steve Jobs, there's like this, I've seen this video before, and he gets this question from this guy. It's kind of insulting. Like, the guy doesn't seem very happy. And Steve Jobs, being the visionary leader that he is, he just hits it out of the park. So, as we watch this, I haven't seen it in a long time, so we'll kind of react together, but it's really fascinating to watch him engage with someone who's playing that devil's advocate. And again, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, just a different point of view.
Mr. Jobs, you're a bright and influential man.
Here it comes.
It's sad and clear that on several counts you've discussed, you don't know what you're talking about. I would like, for example, for you to express in clear terms how, say, Java, in any of its incarnations, addresses the ideas embodied in OpenDoc.
I don't know anything that he just said, but look at the, you know what this reminds me of actually is I'd mentioned that I was at a convention a few years ago, and it was Harold Kitchener was the keynote speaker. It was similar to this actually. Where this kid came up to the microphone and he used data and logic to kind of challenge exactly what Harold Kitchener was talking about. But this guy, I don't think he has the data to back up what he's saying because, for one, I don't know what he's talking about, and I'm pretty technologically savvy. But two, there's a little bit of a personal vendetta I'm feeling here. Like it's a little bit of an emotional trip to the microphone, which that usually means that they're not using data so much, right? If you're making an argument based on emotions, then you've already kind of lost the battle. You want to start with the data, like we do here at the public company. And so that said, though, it's an emotional question. He's approaching the microphone with an emotional tone. He seems like he's kind of on the attack, right? It's not very much it's not a good faith question. I think it's more so coming from a place of looking to prove a point of some kind. But let's take a look at how Steve Jobs responds.
And when you're finished with that, perhaps you could tell us what you personally have been doing for the last 7 years.
Now that's personal. Yeah, see, that's when it's like, okay, and so we'll see. Steve Jobs is a proven leader. He's cool as a cucumber, and he operates that way all the time. So it's just going to be a pleasure to see how he responds here. And you can see it in his eyes a little bit. He's just kind of measuring him up. He's processing what the guy had to say, his question, and he's collecting his thoughts. So when you're in these types of positions, especially in the corporate world, this is exactly how you want to handle it. You don't want to fly off the handle. You don't want to start, talking about, I don't know, talking about stuff that doesn't make sense. You want to be logical.
You can please some of the people some of the time, but
still collecting his thoughts. He's being very introspective in this moment. That's what leaders do. He, too, like the question was a very technical question. Basically what the guy is saying is something along the lines of, why aren't you using this better technology, this more innovative, and it's like got more computing power or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, Steve Jobs, his job isn't to necessarily know about the technology. He's a visionary. That's kind of what makes me a little bit of an enigma, is that I do have a lot of the technical background and the knowledge, but I'm also a very good strategic leader, very good when it comes to the vision. That's why I talk about things like diversity and the climate. But Steve Jobs, though, it's almost like the guy's barking up the wrong tree in a way, right? I mean, it's like, why should Steve Jobs care so much about the level of the technology when all he wants to do is get this computer out here that he knows that people are going to like? This is the guy that came up with things like the iPad, the iPhone. I think that's the first time I ever saw a touchscreen was with the iPhone. You take it and you swipe, whoop, 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 bop, 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 and it's really something. And that all came from Steve Jobs. He came up with that in his head, and he's a visionary. Now, he doesn't know, necessarily the technical details in the background, like what software's driving all those different decisions within the iPhone, some of the hardware complexities and things like that. Probably doesn't know a lot about manufacturing, but he has a vision, and he's very clear on what that vision is. And so, again, I think anytime that you're talking about leadership, as long as you have elite human capital behind you and the vision is clear and the strategy is clear and we're all unified toward that strategy, it's going to take care of itself. We just need to understand what the strategy is, and that's where I come in.
one of the hardest things when you're trying to affect change is that people like this gentleman are right in some areas. I'm sure that there are some things OpenDoc does, probably even more that I'm not familiar with, that nothing else out there does. And I'm sure that you can make some demos, maybe a small commercial app that demonstrates those things. The hardest thing is, how does that fit in to a cohesive, larger vision that's going to allow you to sell $8 billion, $10 billion of product a year?
That's the revenue piece. So again, it's just a brilliant retort. It's a great response from Steve Jobs, where he's basically like, listen, pal, you're probably right. I don't know. You're talking out of my area of expertise. I'll give it to you. But ultimately, why should I care about OpenDoc sourcing? And he's 100% right. You know, what truly matters is how does that tie into the revenue piece and the value proposition at the end of the day. So it's a great answer. I would encourage all of you to go out there and check it out for yourself sometime if you've not done it. Because Steve Jobs really was a lot of people like to give him a hard time for being unhealthy and everything. I was never like that. I've always been a huge Steve Jobs guy. Because he was a visionary and he was tenacious and he's kind of tough on people sometimes, I think. And like I said, he wasn't the most physically healthy guy, but you can't hold that against him. That's always one thing that's always crazy to me is when people take that and make judgments and things like that. So maybe instead of Oscar Pistorius, we can, our takeaway for tonight is to try to be more like Steve Jobs. Let's use his feedback as more of a tailwind for us as we go into next week, as we try to create value through diversity and through saving the planet. But again, let's go into the weekend. It's been a long week, you know, and thankfully this weekend, not a whole lot going on. But thank you one and all for joining for the touch point this evening. And if there aren't any questions or feedback, then I think we're okay for signing off for now. And if you have any recommendations for a better way to facilitate these and maybe find a way to spread the awareness and get a better schedule in place for the touch point so that it works better for everybody, I'm all ears. Just let me know. All right. Well, you guys have a wonderful weekend, and thank you for spending your evening with me. Thank you one and all. Let's continue to create value through inspired transformation, unification, amplification, and fair business. I'll talk to you guys down the road here, down the line, down the road. So have a good night.